Well, damn. Hey everyone, RogueGold here, welcome back to the Division 2. And today I've got a video for you from the surprise second phase of the Year 7 Season 2 public test server. That's a mouthful. That was announced earlier this week. Of course, during phase 1 we checked out stuff like Retaliations, the new exotic fully automatic pistol that's coming our way. But something I did not really check out or cover here was the new tipping scales gear set, because despite it being a DPS focused set, there were whispers out there of people saying this could be a striker contender. It sounded like it was right up my alley. It just wasn't doing it for me in phase 1. It felt a bit too weak in a few too many areas. But as we learned in the dev notes heading into phase 2, this gear set has been buffed by a hefty amount. As outlined here, you now gain 4% crit damage per stack from the throttle control talent. That used to be 2, and then the snowball backpack amplification talent increases that amount to 7. Now, I know that might not mean much yet if you're not yet sure how this all works, but trust me, I wouldn't be making this video if I was not impressed. And that's my takeaway. So let's dive on in and check it out. If you enjoyed the video, you know the drill. Be sure to subscribe to not miss out on future videos. Thank you to each and every one of our channel members out there. Your support is beyond appreciated. But without further ado, let's get to it. Alright, so here is the tipping scales gear set. The 2-piece bonus is going to give you 30% magazine size, whereas the 3-piece then grants you 30% LMG damage, which, side note, I could already see this making for some wild ninja bike combinations with Langmo and contractors. But anyway, moving on to the 4, the talent, as we noted, is called throttle control. It says shooting builds stacks to a max of 50. Each stack provides 0.5% weapon handling and 4% critical hit damage. Lose 6 stacks per second while not shooting. No stacks are lost if an enemy is suppressed. Beyond that, we then have the chest piece talent, which increases that stack maximum to 75, whereas the backpack talent, as we also covered in the intro, increases your critical hit damage per stack to 7%. Alright, so after hearing that, I know that the immediate comparison many are going to make is to Striker, right? You shoot, you build stacks, you deal more damage. Now, just to let you know up front, even when you fully utilize tipping scales here, this will not beat a completely optimized Striker build. I think it gets close, but it doesn't beat it. However, let's say you do want to get the most out of this gear set. If you end up using the backpack and the chest, that means that from this one gear set and talent alone, you will get 525% crit damage. That's wild. Then, of course, when you go in and combine base stats, your shade watch, gear rolls, mods, you're going to be pushing like 700% or more crit damage. And that is nothing to scoff at. As you'll see in the gameplay, this thing mows enemies down. If you're curious, this is the build that you'll see me use in all of the gameplay for this video. Now, to give my usual disclaimer, this is my PTS character, not my main account, so I don't have any shade levels. I don't have the gunner spec, which is absolutely what I would run here. Although, you all who've watched my PTS videos before will be proud, I did finally get some expertise levels. As you can see, I've got 15 there on my primary. I sat around in the base donating stuff for like an hour to rank that up, so you're welcome. To compensate, however, as well as to make sure that this video was fully analyzing the build and gear set itself, I have disabled seasonal modifiers. So all of that being said, just note that whatever you're seeing in this video and footage can be far exceeded with everything else added in on your main accounts. On here though, I opted not to use the gear set chest piece talent just so that we could build up those stacks a little bit quicker. Instead, I went with Obliterate. The Palisade brand is just for some sustain, but then I decided to add in the Tinkerer and mix the fast hands and steady handed talent. Now, many people have said that Frenzy is going to be their go-to talent on this, and that's totally viable. The reason I went with this combo is that I wanted to maximize my shooting uptime, because that is obviously how we stack throttle control. However, at the same time, I also wanted minimal micromanagement, which when I run Frenzy, I do feel like I have to consciously keep in mind when it's going to proc, how much time I have left. By using fast hands, I guarantee that I get snappy reloads pretty much every single time. Again, that will be even better when I use gunner. And then steady-handed, once you proc it, will skip the reload altogether. And with the handling that it offers, combined with throttle control's weapon handling, it makes your gun, whatever you're using, a laser beam. So that's kind of the playstyle that I leaned into in this. I just wanted to post up on some cover and mow people down. Now, the concern that a lot of people had about this set, specifically after phase 1, and I was somebody who shared this concern, was that the aggressive stack decay on it would hinder the set too much. right? You finally get things going, then you have to stop for a second or reload, and you pretty much lose it all within a few seconds. However, after the buff, the ramp up in damage is so fast that I really don't think it's that big of an issue, because once I really sat down and tried this thing, once you get into the flow of constant firing, suppressing enemies when you do need to pause, I think it's very manageable to maintain the stacks, and the damage will back you up when you do. So again, does this tipping skill set beat Striker? No. However, I do think that it offers you a very competitive alternative. It also rewards you for building a little bit differently than you would for Striker, and it does offer its own playstyle, right? If you prefer the spray bullets everywhere kind of approach instead of the precision that Striker asks for, then I think you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of tipping scales. You know, no enemy hits required, you just spray the fire hose until you connect, and they'll die. While I had a lot of fun with this build in solo during the PTS, I could also see this being very viable for kind of group Overwatch or support, you know, in the new Retaliations mode, post up on some cover, suppress enemies, allow teammates some more breathing room to take them out. It won't be for absolutely everybody, but for me, this buff has definitely elevated tipping scales into the conversation for endgame builds. Well, my friends, that is just about going to do it. I just wanted to come on here and give you a quick little overview of the tipping scales gear set specifically because we didn't cover it during phase 1, and I think this buff, like I said, has given it a lot more shine. I'm curious to see what people do with this thing. Again, my character is limited by some of my stats, but I'm sure that when fully maximized, you could do some crazy things with this set. So at this point, I would love to hear your guys' thoughts on things, whether you have tried tipping scales for yourself in the PTS or you're just watching online coverage of it. What do you think? Does this set have the potential to at least be a contender in the end game? How do you think it does stack up against something like Striker? Let me know. I'll be curious to hear your thoughts. That is just about going to do it for me today, though. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. RogueGold out.